You can try your first 30 days for free of the HerbRally Schoolhouse at herbally.com/schoolhouse and just enter coupon code podcast at checkout. We release epic new video classes each week. We're building a growing library of diverse herbal education in video, audio, and written form, co-created with some of the most experienced and highly esteemed herbalists around. One more time, to learn more, head to herbally.com/schoolhouse. And don't forget to use coupon code podcast at checkout to try your first 30 days for free. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into the show. The content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to cure, diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. This information has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. We are not doctors, nor do we play one on the internet. Please seek advice from a qualified healthcare professional. Okay, MC Calico, take it away.
Yeah. Smoking herbal blends. We need some Mullen and some Kush, my brethren. While listening to HerbRally podcast again. Herbalism at its finest with Mason Hutchinson. Yeah.
Can you give our audience maybe some just general tips on how to market their herbal products better?
Sure. Yeah, totally. So if you're an herbal product maker and you're wanting to market your products, a few tips that I would have. First off, we offer at Herbal Content Cottage, we offer both copywriting and photography. So let's kind of focus on copywriting first, maybe, and we can kind of talk about some of those tips. Writing can be hard if it's not your thing. Like, I totally get it. A lot of our clients struggle with doing their own writing. And over the years, one of the big tips that I share with folks is to read your copy out loud to yourself. I think when you read something out loud, you can get a better feel for, does it sound conversational? Is it too stiff? Is it too long? And I really think reading something out loud after you write it can be really, really helpful. I would also recommend we use a free tool called Grammarly on a lot of the writing we do. Have you ever used that, Mason? Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it. I've seen commercials for it, and it looks like it's very effective. I've never used it, though.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's kind of like if you were to take the spell check that we've all used before, but also it applies to grammar, and it helps you write things in a way that's a lot more like consistent, concise, a lot more like concise and just like, get your point out there. So if you struggle with writing, I would look into that app. It really helps you clean it up, get it really professional. And then I would just also finally encourage you to just really be yourself. When we're getting to know our clients and we're trying to kind of get to know like the brand voice, I have found that like 99% of the times, the brand voice is really essentially the founder's voice. It's kind of one and the same. And so just honor that. If you're really silly and goofy and you're cracking jokes all the time, have fun in your copy, like bring that into your brand. Don't feel like you have to be overly like stiff or professional. In fact, we're seeing more and more that the best copy is short, it's concise. People have very short attention spans these days. We oftentimes, when my team and I are writing, we'll write the copy, we'll get it all out, and then we'll go through and we'll try to figure out, can any of this be turned into bullet points or just a headline, or like, how can you break it up? People have like really short attention spans. So I would just say, keep it short, keep it fun, and be yourself. And then when it comes to the visual side of things, capturing products, if you're doing it yourself, oh my God, there's like so much to say about this. I'm almost wondering like what's the most helpful? Depending on where you're starting, just go. One thing that can be really tricky with capturing your images can be having it just look really professional. And I would just encourage you, even if you have a phone, phones are amazing. iPhones take great photos. Like, do not feel like you have to go invest in some fancy camera to share photos of your product or even your service. Like you do not have to. And what I would do is I would take your product, take your phone, walk around your house and look for a window where there's nice, pretty natural light streaming in. And then pull over like a coffee table or a desk, put your product on it, figure out what angle you need to get to really see the label very clearly. And then just pull in between 1 and 3 other like props, like items. Fresh flowers are really good. A little, vase with some flowers, a linen textile. It's amazing the difference that like a linen napkin can make in a photo. It just softens it up and gives it like a really cozy vibe. We actually have a whole list over on the Herbal Content Cottage website right now of my 65 of my favorite herbal props.
Oh, wow.
Things that you can grab around your house, to give it that herbal vibe. And there's any herbs, your mortar and pestle, spoons, bowls, all these things just help kind of give context that this is an herbal product. And you can just kind of situate those things in the scene, off to the side, a little bit behind it, and you're going to start seeing your photos get a more professional feel pretty quickly.
So you said that list is available on your website?
Yep. Yeah. herbalcontentcottage.com. It's currently set up as just a pop-up. So just come to our site and within a few minutes you'll get, or a few seconds really, you'll get prompted to download it if you want to check it out.
Oh, that's a rad resource. So I suppose it's almost unavoidable, but I'm curious, what are your thoughts on maybe going to other herbal product Instagram pages and kind of like being inspired and almost, trying to, I don't know if, have you heard the term steal like an artist?
I have. Yeah, totally. And, I think that's totally fine. Like what you want to do, we all have to go find inspiration, right? And we're all constantly consuming content that is going to inspire us and affect our decisions. And I think really what it comes down to is, if you find an image that you really love and you think, oh my God, I want to create this, I want this vibe, just ask yourself, what are ways that I can make little changes to make it more original to myself or my brand? Trying to think of an example, like let's say, maybe you love this photo that has a big vase of sunflowers in the background, and you love the pops of yellow. So, maybe you can just swap in like a different yellow flower, a different colored vase, a different colored background, swapping in just nuance changes to help make it your own, I think can be really helpful. But, we all start off by, consuming other people's stuff and trying to recreate it. And I especially think if you're just doing it as like a practice, like if you're at home and you're just trying to practice, recreate all you want. That's how you kind of get to feel for how it works. And then you can also just give credit. I think if you decide to post it on Instagram or on social media, you can always just say like, had a great time styling this and I was inspired by at whoever, to get the vibe. And then they'll appreciate that. And then that takes away any sort of like, weirdness, I think.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah. If you're going to completely outright copy someone, you should probably at least give them credit. Years ago, we had one photographer at Mountain Rose Herbs, and they had a very distinct style, and it was cool to see Amanda kind of take over. And it was still the Mountain Rose Herbs brand, but you could just tell that was her signature. And as I mentioned to you before, Amanda just always like gushes over your style, your photography and colors that you use, and just like your logo and branding. And I looked at her and I was like, Amanda, you like it so much because it probably reminds you of your style. Like,
I love her style too. Totally. Yeah, for sure. I think that's unique. Really cool.
You're both unique. You both create your own stuff, but it's and especially to like say someone on your guys' level, like you definitely do have your own nuances. And that's why I brought up the previous photographer and designer at Mountain Rose, because you just have your own thumbprint on it. But yeah, I love those suggestions. I did want to kind of go back to the copywriting for a second. How do you feel about this? Because I've been doing this for a while now, writing as opposed to like big chunks of paragraphs. I almost split up things like every sentence or two, and I even do that in my emails, and I feel like it's almost more digestible and readable that way.
100%. Yes. Even down, like you said, like I think when we were in school growing up, we were taught that a paragraph is like 3 to 4 sentences. And now when we're writing, I'll make a paragraph like one sentence. We also do a lot of, if you have something that you really want people to see, then use those tools like bold, bold those words or underline it, or take that sentence and bump up the font size way big so that like, it really stands out. We use Squarespace for our Herbal Content Cottage website, and they actually just released a new feature that I was like really nerding out about, where you can highlight you can circle text now, which I love. It looks really cool on websites. It really stands out. So I totally agree. I'm glad to hear you guys are doing that. We do that too. I think a lot of it just comes down to the fact that people have shorter and shorter attention spans. We're scrolling real quick, jumping around, and just saying what you need to say really, really clearly, grabbing that attention. And then another really important part of that is to then include a really very obvious little box or button or something that people can click on to actually go through and, make that sale, buy that product, sign up for your newsletter list. Those are called call to action or CTA buttons. And the more of those you can sprinkle in your newsletter, your blog post, your website copy, like be liberal with those, because that's how people actually, do it. That's how they sign up. That's how they make a purchase. And that's your ultimate goal.
Yeah, CTA is very important. So just fun fact, HerbRally's on Squarespace too, always has been.
Nice.
Yeah, I love them. I saw something on your website where you circled, like you had all there's 2 lists of things and you kind of circled which ones were your preference. It was like ocean, woods, and you like did meadow or something like that.
Yeah. Yes.
I only bring it up because I thought that was cool, first of all, but second of all, is that the circle feature you're talking about?
No, that is like a graphic that we made with, I have to give mad props to Jess Madsen of the Wildcraft Studio.
Oh, yeah.
She is who she designed our website, and she did our Herbal Content Cottage branding and logo. She made that for us. So she really got us kind of up off the ground, because we do copywriting and photography, but we don't do like the branding and the graphic design. So huge props to Jess. If anyone's listening to this and they actually need a Squarespace or need a website or labels or branding, Jess is my go-to gal. I recommend her to everyone.
Wildcraft Studio, that's based in Oregon, is it not?
She's in Tacoma.
Oh, okay. I totally know that brand. That's cool that she did that for you.
Yeah, she's great.
So, is there anything else regarding photography or copywriting, or that's a pretty good primer, I'd say?
I mean, the only other thing that I think is worth mentioning is, this is like a general marketing tip, is to like really, I encourage anyone who's listening to really, really pay attention to your newsletter list. I think it's really easy for folks to get wrapped up in social media. How many followers do I have? How many likes did I get? It's easy because it's like a quick gratification. But what we often tell our clients is that social media is kind of like the handshake. Like that's, hey, nice to meet you. This is who we are. This is what we're about. But then the actual transactions, the purchases, the things that really like move your business along are so much more likely to take place via newsletters. That's why if you open your inbox and it's just like every single clothing company you've ever shopped from, it's like, taking up all that, it's because it works. Those big brands with those big marketing bucks have whole teams completely focused on newsletters. So if you are an herbal business and you're trying to grow or you're just getting set up, I'd really encourage you to take the time to make sure you are collecting email addresses, doing a really great, the number one way that we have found to capture them is to do those freebies. Like we were talking about earlier, that little pop-up I have with the list, those are so successful. It's like crazy. So ask yourself, what's a free little graphic or a little ebook or something fun that I could put together, post it up on your site and say, hey guys, give me your email address, and in exchange, I'll email this to you. You'll get it for free. And we see 4 to 5 times more email newsletter signups through those freebies than we do through just like the newsletter forms embedded on websites. So check that out. If I'm going to leave you with like a nugget, like please pay attention to your newsletter lists.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I know a lot of people are apprehensive to put up, say, a pop-up on their website. But honestly, it's so ubiquitous now that everyone's just used to Xing out. Like no one has to
Right.
sign up. They can just click out. It's no big deal. And then the exchange, the value you get in return is you actually have the ability to directly communicate with your customer or potential customer. And
Yes.
also as far as like the social media stuff goes, those could almost just be considered like vanity metrics. Like let's say you have X number of thousand followers, but you're only actually reaching a certain percentage of those because the platform they own the platform. So they're, unless you pay for actual promotion, you're not going to be able to reach them. Granted, newsletters
Yes.
do cost money, like say HerbRally has MailChimp and we pay so much money per month, but in the end it's totally worth the upfront cost because with say like a 30% open rate, you're actually getting people to see what you're trying to promote. I'll also add on to that, you get the email subscriber. Then when it comes time to actually putting out the newsletter, you should be providing value so people actually want to stick around.
100%. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, that is like when you're reaching out to your newsletter subscribers, you're not just saying, buy this, buy this, buy this, because then you're kind of annoying. Everyone's like, okay, I get it. Like you're spamming me. So
Unsubscribe.
like, yeah, like no, instead you want to be like, hey, here's this awesome recipe I really love. Here's this really cool project. Here's a plant profile on an herb. Here's 10 herbs you can keep in mind if you have a headache, like cool content where people want to open your newsletters and they get excited to receive your newsletters. And then sprinkled in at the, later on in the newsletter or every so often in your newsletters, you can say, by the way, if you want more stuff like this,
Yeah.
if you're digging my free content, then here you can spend a little bit of money to buy my book or try my product, but yeah, I don't want to say, Mason, too, like I love hearing your insight on what you guys do for HerbRally because I think you guys do such a good job. I love getting your newsletters. I love seeing your social posts. Do you know what you guys do a really good job of is I feel like I know you and Amanda. Like I literally I could be like, hey, what's up, bestie? And you're like, we haven't talked in like 10 years. But like that's like that is like an ultimate goal for marketing is that your clients feel like they know you and that they can trust you and they like you. And you guys do such a good job of that. I want to give you like mad props.
Well, thank you. A lot of people don't really think of me as like this shy person, but I would say my entire life I was just kind of this shy person. So every step of HerbRally has actually been kind of a soul growth for me. Me consistently putting myself out there a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, to the point where y'all actually kind of know me to one degree, and Amanda now to one degree or another. And yeah, I would say it's just been super good for me. And now I'm actually doing these podcasts and stuff like that. So now I get to know my HerbRally peeps a lot more. So thank you for the
That's so
compliment.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sometimes on our newsletter, I'll be like, "Oh, I wrote like the past 5 introductions. I gotta get Amanda on this so people hear her voice too."
Yeah. Well, you guys do a good job of intermingling like
Mhm.
personal stuff where people feel like they know what's going on in your life. Like you just posted about that. Like I know you guys just adopted a cat. And like that's awesome. Like it makes me feel like I know you guys and I know what you're up to. And people are so much more likely to invest in a brand and support a brand when they feel like they know the people who are behind it. So they can look at you guys and they can be like, okay, here's an example of someone who's really doing this well.
Thank you. You were talking about kind of just during the copywriting stuff, you were talking about be yourself, show your voice, that kind of thing. It was early on in like the HerbRally podcast. I really wanted to implement like a hip hop beat or song into it because I know a lot of herbalism content, and I know it's probably genuine for a lot of these brands. It's like a Freudian slip. A lot of these brands use, like, say, folk music or banjos and this and that. And
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, I like bluegrass and all that stuff too, but I felt like it would have been like non-authentic for me not to use some sort of hip hop influence, because it's greatly influenced my life. And even though it doesn't necessarily, like, say, jive with your stereotypical herbalism brand, I really wanted to incorporate hip hop because it's a part of me. So
Yeah, I think that's so important too, because and with then to like analyze that through like a marketing lens, kind of, it's nice because there's a lot of people out there who love herbalism and they love hip hop and they haven't really seen that intersection. And so then when they see you guys doing that intersection, it's like, hey, this is super cool. Here's people who are like combining two worlds that I also appreciate, and it's just, who doesn't like seeing someone be themselves, I mean, I guess unless you're just like a mean person and you're just being mean, but like you're not, so you don't have to worry about it.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the HerbRally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at HerbRally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from HerbRally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.